Hello, welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Podcast. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard. That's Lenard. It looks French. It's not. It's Leonard without an O. Thank you for tuning in. As Graham Norton used to say on his show, let's get on with the show! Hello, everybody. I just wanted to let you know this brief intro. I'm going to double up 2 a week for the rest of January to get caught up on a few interviews I've recorded lately. They're kind of piling up. They're going a little too far in the future. I don't want to keep people waiting that long. So for the rest of January, I'll do 2 during the week rather than 1 midweek drop on Wednesday. So Tuesday and Thursday, the rest of January. Anyway, let's get some guests on, as Graham Norton currently says, and I'm borrowing. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Podcast. Joining me today is Gabrielle Crichlow, and of course, if you're viewing behind the scenes, you could see her name already in the lower left corner there, but I'll put it in bigger, bolder letters in post-production in the scroll on the bottom of the screen. Welcome to the show, Gabrielle. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Like I always say, could be better, could be worse.
Of,
Right?
of course. Take it one day at a time, as I also
Yeah.
like to say.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Worry about today, tomorrow. Worry about tomorrow. Yes. You're here. We're going to talk mental health and mainly regarding kids because we met via Podmatch, a service, and part of the back and forth that we had was I had said how concerned whether during the lockdowns, the Wuhan hysteria and the lockdowns, suicide rates among so many groups shot way up, but mainly among our kids because some that felt isolated then were obviously even more isolated by the hysteria and the lockdowns. Have those rates come down at all? Have our kids recovered from the damage we did to them yet?
So let me just say as a disclaimer, this is purely my opinion. Um, I,
Well,
I,
before you answer that, I didn't ask the usual. I need to ask the typical for where were you born and raised, and where are you now? And we need that nitty gritty first.
okay, well, I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. And I came to America when I was 3 years old. So now I am in the state of New York, and I have been here ever since.
uh, uh, at least you're not in the state of Missouri, like I like to joke, the state of misery. My audience knows I can't pass on the stupid puns. So now back to the serious topic. Indeed, have our kids recovered?
I would say slightly. Um, so in regards to the suicide rates, I think, in my opinion, it has come down a lot, especially now that things are slowly returning to normal, with, kids going back to school in person, with kids being able to congregate with other kids again, which started happening around 2023, I want to say. So the suicide rates have come down as we've started accumulating ourselves around each other again. Um, but in terms of have we fully recovered 100%? Not really. I don't think we fully recovered as a society, um, let alone our children. Um, like even with schools, there every year there's an outbreak. So, with flu season around, I want to say September, October, November. Now, COVID is part of the flu season.
Mix,
Um,
yep.
so, I would even go as far as December. So from September to December, um, I would say it's cold season, flu season. Now it's COVID season, right? So now we have that to deal with, and
Yeah,
we still have they're still making us get booster shots every year. So the COVID prevention is still a part of our society now. It hasn't exactly gone away. Even like going to the doctors, for example, they may still make you wear a mask. And then you still have like people that choose to wear a mask in their everyday life, not necessarily someone in the professional field. So because we still have those remnants of COVID, it does trickle down to the kids. And even, like I said, even with schools, there is remote learning still exists, right? So in case, and there's still like if one kid gets COVID, like the school will shut down, right? So they'll tell the child to, stay home, and then they alert all the parents. So either the school shuts down or they'll just put everybody on alert. Hey, a kid was tested positive for COVID, so just FYI, right? So I think because we still have those remnants of COVID, um, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
yeah,
The kids still feel it, right? They still feel, um, you know, now classes are on computers now, and there's this move to digitize everything. So, because of all the changes in the educational system, there's more of a push to digitizing everything. And there's more of a push for things being on computers and teaching on computers. So because of the changing landscape in education and even in our society with, again, with the doctor's offices, still having to wear a mask, still having to get COVID boosters. Um, and then of course you still have the paranoid, anxious people, like I don't want my kids around a crowd of people. We still have those remnants and the
yeah.
children do,
Even
and
though,
they feel that. Yeah.
yeah, even though now all these years later, we know the Wuhan hysteria is mainly and always has been a threat to those who have comorbidities. I know a few people that died through complications. Like one was a nurse and she had asthma. So she had a comorbidity. And indeed, catching COVID caused the issue with the asthma. They combined and she literally drowned in her own, drowned in her own bed due to
Right.
pneumonia. It wasn't the COVID that killed her, it was the complications with her asthma that
It made
brought
it
that
worse.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't affect the kids as much, but, and even all these years, hundreds of years of mask science, the COVID particulate is smaller than even an N95 mask protects against. So wearing these cloth masks are a placebo, but if it helps make some feel better, then okay, knock yourself out. But yeah, I want to go back to schools and society in general. FaceTime, the computer version, cannot and will not ever replace actual teacher to student, actual face to face time and socializing of our kids actually being in the same place, being face to face than FaceTime on the computer. it's a totally different socialization, and many of them lost several years of that development.
Yes, I'm sorry, my phone is ringing in the
Oh,
background, but but so I apologize for that. Yes, it
in
doesn't replace
person.
in person. It doesn't. I mean, there are pros and cons. I will say that I wouldn't completely knock down FaceTime and uh, but
It's better than no contact.
right, right. And then there are some students who have special needs, for example, like those with autism, or those with physical disabilities, or those who may be blind or mute or deaf. Like
Yeah,
they need more. They need yeah,
everything.
they
It's
need
not a
more.
one
Yeah,
size fits all,
it's
right?
not. Like some people need more hands-on, more physical contact in terms of learning. But there are some kids that may do better on the computer, right? So maybe those who may be anxious or what maybe who have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety, I would say that. Or, there are some kids with autism that might actually do better on a computer, right? With someone teaching on a computer. So there are benefits as well as detriments, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think overall it doesn't replace face-to-face contact.
yeah. For every rule, there are exceptions, but for thousands, or if you want to go and say millions of years, humanity as creatures has been an interactive species. That's the rule, but yes, there are some exceptions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think that because we've been moving into a digital age for a while now, definitely beyond before COVID. I think since the internet was born, I think we have definitely been moving into a digital age, particularly with children, particularly with schools. Like we're introducing tablets into the schools, um, which blew up more during COVID, but it showed up before. And then there's all like the assisting technologies, like talk to text, dictation, recording classes, trans transcriptions, right? So all of these things happened before COVID. Zoom happened before COVID. It just blew up because of COVID, right? So
Yeah.
these things
And I'm
existed
a
before.
former IT guy, so I've seen the stuff coming uh, up close and personal from the inside. Uh, Everything is great as a tool in its proper place, but not as a crutch, as a babysitter, right? Oh, here, let give give that as an excuse to then not have to interact. Uh, so yeah, it can be a great useful tool if we don't use it as an excuse uh, for other things we can and could and should be doing. You, am I making sense in that?
Like definitely when it comes to babysitting, and I have to admit I'm guilty of that. When it comes to babysitting my niece and nephew, it's like here, just watch the TV or just go play on the tablet, right? But then by doing that, it's already addictive already, right? So it's just throwing them into the
Yeah, but
addiction. But
yeah,
oh,
what they're doing on it
right,
matters. Yeah, if they're doing
right,
something constructive, or if they're indeed mindless video games that addict them and keep them distracted from reality. The Like you said, upsides and downsides to everything, and we as parental units have to make sure we are aware of what they're doing digitally.
right. And we don't. and a lot of times you don't really know what they're watching, right? And then just and then because we're kind of throwing them into these electronics, we're breaking the communication, and there's a disconnect now between trying to relate to one another, right? And kids, they're not really picking up social cues or looking at facial expressions, right? And so there's that disconnect there. And I remember someone telling me of because of all the mask wearing, a lot of kids now have difficulties with speech because they're not reading lips. So there's a lot more of that happening, and so there's a lot of speech difficulties because
Right,
of
because we
all
all
the
have,
mask wearing. Yeah,
yeah, we have varying accents and whatnot, including regional. At times, you need them facial and, as you said, lip cues. You may not hear the word clearly, but if you're having that real IRL in real life face to face, you can kind of see the mouthing and grasp the context of the word and know what it is, rather than if you were on the phone and only hearing the word and it's like, what? What was that? I didn't quite get you.
you're the way that we form our lips around certain words, you're mimicking that with your own lips, right? So if you're not really seeing it because of all the mask wearing and you're young, right, you're going to end up mispronouncing words, right? Or hearing words that may not make sense to you, like, wait, what? So I think, and a lot of those speech difficulties have been coming up, right, as of late, because of that. So
Yeah.
and that's very big in terms of kids and trying to uh, develop their vocabulary and understanding what it means in context and things like that. So there's going to be long-term effects because of COVID, and it's going to be a while before. I mean, we're on our way, but it's going to be a while before we completely
Yeah.
bounce back.
Yeah, our education system has been on the
Hmm.
decline and pathetic for so
Yeah,
long now. Our kids were already generation to generation getting worse regarding language to begin with. And now, as you're saying, without that visual cue, there's even greater language barrier.
absolutely, absolutely. And and I think with COVID, it already exposed the school system already with all of its flaws. It just exacerbated it. Especially with the wealthy poverty distinction. It definitely made that worse, right? Because of course, COVID, in terms of what schools did, schools in wealthier neighborhoods, they were able to get more access to resources, but then you have the schools in poorer neighborhoods that, had to struggle. So, of course, there's that wealthy poverty gap,
As
um,
always
which
has
made it worse.
been.
Yeah.
Yeah. As Jesus said,
Yeah,
the poor will always be among you. That wasn't an economic or governance statement. It was there are some who always choose to do the least possible in everything and therefore don't quite get as ahead as they may otherwise be able to if they exerted themselves. But now, a throwing everything out the window, a complete non sequitur, right? For those viewing on video, I can only see the top of your shirt. So I'm curious, what does your shirt say?
so so there's a actually no. So I went to a family reunion last year in Trinidad, and it's like a big event that we had, and we made t-shirts. So it
Ah,
says, "Remember where you came from," and there's a big tree, and then it says, well, everything's backward on video, sorry. But it's
No,
Crichlow,
I can see it
yeah.
front way. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Crichlow Millington Family Reunion 2024. Family is everything.
Wonderful. I'm glad I asked. Uh, but I forgot where I did want to go next.
With the schools and
Yeah, we could talk for 30 years on that alone, and the medical issues alone, and whatnot here. But I do you have a website for people to go to?
yes. So I tutor. Um, so if for those watching or listening, if you are looking for tutoring services for your child between third grade and 12th grades, and then even early college, depending on where you are in college, my website is www.astepahedtutoringservices.com. So we
Ace.
provide a step ahead tutoring services.com.
That's kind of long. I gotta be honest with you. That's
Yeah.
a little long. Uh, but
Just a step, just you're moving a step ahead, right? So a step ahead and then tutoring and then yeah, it's long, but
I will get it to, it will fit on the screen. It'll just have to be a smaller font than someone who has a shorter website, but we'll get it on there. Uh, I remembered where I was going to go. What I forgot, now I've forgotten. Oh, the haves have nots divide has always been there, and sorry, it's unfortunate part of human nature and the way the planet is. There's always right those with means will always have access to more, and yeah, it's a if you're on the upper side of it, it's great, obviously. But if you're not, then But it's a part of reality. We either have to accept and do our best to work within, or we're just going to be miserable our whole lives. And claiming victimhood and blaming others doesn't really help ourselves when we're doing that. I'm not saying any particular person or whatever is, but that is part of human nature. That's accepting our lot in life and doing whatever we can to improve it. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm just reacting off of what you said. Your thoughts? Your additional thoughts?
I do understand that. However, there tends to be a favoritism to the ones that have, right? So, yes, it is something that we have to accept as part of our society. There's going to be those who have and those who have not because there are more people than there are resources. However, I think there needs to be more of a favoritism towards the ones who have not, right? Because the ones that have there is a privilege, right? And it's a privilege to be able to have access to more resources. And so
Right.
if we had more government funding and they funded more public schools, right, then that would address a lot of the issues that schools are having today. And then also with teachers leaving in droves
Well,
because of
I'm going to
COVID.
push back because
Uh-huh.
every year funding goes up and our schools get worse and our kids get dumber. The issue is not funding, it's a will to actually educate rather than indoctrinate. It is my take on it. And of course, with the United States, I mean, there's a reason why you want to be here and not somewhere else. Never before in the course of human history have people had an opportunity to lift themselves up through the wonders of our particular governance and economy. So, yeah, again, Jesus said, the poor will always be among you. There will always be some who choose to do little. But I get it. Indeed, there are those who are held back. I don't deny that as part of our reality, though, either.
And I understand that, but how you treat the poor is it shows a reflection of who you are.
Absolutely.
So,
This is a Christian show.
yeah,
Jesus said, you are to be your brother's keeper and to take care of widows and orphans through biblical community, God given free will. I am to want to do that. The Bible also makes the distinction between those who are unable to help themselves versus those who are unwilling to help themselves. Hence, the poor will always be among you, versus stealing from somebody to give to another and pretend you've done something when you've not given your blood and treasure in the process under biblical community and free will.
that is true. And even looking at, and I know there's a parable in the Bible, like there was a young king that came to Jesus and said, what do I need to do to get to heaven? And Jesus said, get rid of, well, he listed a bunch of things, but then the last thing he said was, get rid of all of your riches. And what did the king do? He sulked and walked away, right? So, I mean, it's a parable, but basically, the
Within the,
Bible has mentioned, yeah, like the
yeah,
Bible has mentioned several times about you're not going to take your wealth with you when you die, right? So
absolutely.
there's
Correct.
a,
Correct.
and what does it profit a man if he gains the world and loses his own soul?
A- Amen. I've quoted that. That indeed true. There's so many things that you can, if you need to take them all in the full context as opposed to some who just pick and choose one thing or another. And indeed, uh, but also it doesn't say God helps those who help themselves. It doesn't say that, but much implies such that you can't help others if you don't help yourself also first, right? I can't help feed the poor if I'm not able to take care of myself and have enough to then help feed the poor with.
You have to help yourself before you help other people. You can't
It's like the
feed the
plane,
poor.
right? Like
Right.
on the plane, what do they tell you? In the case of the loss of cabin pressure, put on your own mask first because you're no help to anybody else if you're flopping on the floor without oxygen.
Absolutely. You can't, I mean, you can't pour everything out to help other people and not really pour back into yourself. And you have to pour first before, in order to give to somebody else. So, yeah, there is a balance in taking care of other
Yes,
people and taking care
yes,
of yourself.
yes, absolutely, absolutely, positively. Well, we've kind of strayed from our original initial subject. So, wrapping things back up, what concerns do you have regarding uh, the health in general of people, our especially our kids going forward, if any?
I think understanding that, children are like, I don't want to say they're naturally unhealthy, but they naturally don't want to do things that are healthy, right? So just understanding that about kids, like, oh, they would want to eat candy instead of vegetables, right? So understanding that,
Why
but
we got to be the parent? Yeah,
yeah, but my concern is we're not really, as parents, as adults, we're not really involved in their health and we're not really on top of them about their health,
As we should be and
as we
need to
should.
be. Yes, yes,
So
we
we
are in agreement there. Absolutely.
so I would want to see more proactivity when it comes to health and being more involved in it and not just punishing. That's another thing too. I find that
Oh, that
a
can be
lot of
a
parents get
backfire.
frustrated and
Backfires.
you don't
Yeah.
brush your teeth, your mouth is gonna burn or whatever. Like just maybe explain it like you don't brush your teeth and things will grow and your breath will smell and people will smell. I don't know, like people are gonna smell that nasty breath and they're gonna treat you a certain way. Like there's a way to do it, but I think if we and
And
got
for every rule, there's an exception again, right? Every
yeah.
child isn't going to respond to the same
Mm.
motivation.
Right. Some kids need more they need stricter motivation than others. But I think the more involved we are in our children's health, the better it is for them.
Absolutely agree with that. And so I've done too many interviews today. My mind has turned to mush. You're just happening to be the last one of the day, and my brain, I think, is kind of checked out already. My apologies. I'm not giving you the best me that you deserve here. But,
Understandable, understandable.
but thank you. Let me make sure I read it so I get it right. Gabrielle Crichlow for coming
Yes.
on, and people check out a step ahead tutoring services.com for
Mm-hmm.
more information. I try to
Absolutely.
keep the show shorter. I call it today's Twitter attention span. Being a former IT guy, I've seen the deterioration in attention spans because of social media. Oh, just give it to me. If you can't give it to me in 200 characters, I don't need to know it. Well, yes, you do. And details matter. But, if I do long shows, nobody will watch them. So then nobody wins. Thank you, Gabrielle. Take care. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help. Thank you for having tuned into another Constitutionalist Podcast show. I really appreciate that you stopped by. Again, please like, share, subscribe. We need you to help spread the Constitutionalist movement. Thank you again. Take care. God bless. Love you all.